1,000 residents in the city. They had been shutting off water for years, but nowhere on this scale.
In my mind, and it's why I really look forward to being on the show, water has been the paramount issue. And when you look at nuclear power, there's three W's. Water, where's the water going to come from? Waste, where's the waste going to go? And Wall Street. Why has Wall Street never invested in nuclear? So when you solve those riddles, then we can have a discussion about it.
Yeah. Yeah, we got to be truthful about it first. We have to understand it, put it all on the table to talk about it.
That seems to be an issue with the elitist corporations and companies is transparency is a word that's not in their vocabulary.
The laws have been so relaxed, and this is even pre-Trump environmentally, that we're on our heels. The only way the Supreme Court could be worse is if they appointed Darth Vader as the
Right.
That might be an improvement.
Could be an improvement. So, I mean, when you litigate in the NRC, it's a tough gig. You're going to lose. It's pro-nuclear. You can rarely appeal outside to federal court because they'll say, look, we don't have the requisite competence to understand these issues. But a lot of these issues aren't nuclear. I mean, water in nuclear has been really just recently people paying attention to it by looking at the temperature at discharge, by looking at the fish kills. TMI uses something called clamtrol, which is a chemical to kill invasive species. This all goes back to the same place.
Right.
And, you know, as we said back in 79, we all lived downriver from something.
Was just recently an oil spill here in at the St. Clair Shore River and in the St. Clair Shore River, and it was just we're all downhill from it. Even if it took us a couple days, to reach us, it did, and it would.
Yeah.
But people were like, "Oh no, drinking water's fine, whatever." But they're always, they never tell us the truth. That's why we have to be those agents.
We need to understand the moment in time we live in where the average American has an attention span of a fruit fly. And yeah, and if it doesn't happen within 24 hours or 48 hours, it doesn't have an impact. So you look at a country that's passive, it's a consumer-based economy. How those products are manufactured, people don't seem to care unless it impacts them directly. So with the water issue, it impacts directly when you have to conserve or you're without water, but it shouldn't have to come to that. And I think we're at a critical juncture. I think water has been taken for granted, and I think a lot of environmentalists should take a hit on that because they look at atmospheric releases at the, you know, at the loss of water consciousness. So I think we're all basically swimming up the same stream.
So it's called the Great Lakes Compact, and it's an extraordinary piece legislation that was passed by Congress back in 2008. It bans water diversions outside of the Great Lakes boundary watershed. So the history around the creation and the establishment of the Great Lakes Compact is fascinating. In the 1940s and 50s, farmers in Arizona would be pumping water from the Great Lakes in pipes, and water is this commodity that could just be taken away. We talk about the reasonable use that riparian owners can use the water within the watershed. And they also have to balance the uses with each other.
Yeah, we have to share it.
We all need water to exist. All living creatures, ecosystems need it.
You asked about the immediate risks. The reactor's not been operating since May 20th of 2022. They plan to restart it. They say by October of this year. To do that would be taking very extreme safety risks. The issue now are what are called steam generators. It's a heat transfer component, but it has a direct pathway to the reactor core. It was already severely degraded by the year 2006. The previous owner, Consumers Energy now, told the Michigan Public Service Commission we were going to sell the plant, which they did, to Entergy, which ran it from 2007 to 2022, never replaced the steam generators. Holtec, who now owns Palisades, made matters worse
Yeah.
by neglecting safety maintenance. When they got a hold of it in 2022, they didn't do safety maintenance for 2 years. The corrosion accelerated, any one of which breaks down, we could have a reactor core meltdown on the Lake Michigan shoreline. October, I call it radioactive Russian roulette. I want to start putting more bullets in the chambers.
You've got to recognize water providers who are running any kind of social service programs is that people have problems on a long-term matter. And many times they're not going to be able to get to a point where they can afford the bills for their basic needs to just be able to manage our quality of life. And so when we're talking about water affordability, we're looking for long-term solutions,
That's right.
not just short-term Band-Aids. And assistance is what that it typically encompasses. It's often on the terms of the water provider if they feel like offering something, and if they do, for how long they'll offer it, how much the discount may be. Some water providers are only willing to offer assistance to senior citizens, but they're leaving out low-income families, babies and kids and other people with chronic problems in their lives and are unable to work or can't work as many hours. So affordability recognizes the differences between long-term and short-term.
We have more Michigan news, some good news coming out of Wyandotte. You want to tell us about it?
Wyandotte has made a collective decision to cut fluoride from its water supply. You know that one of the main reasons they started adding fluoride to our drinking water is because so many people had damaged oral hygiene beginning of the 20th century. But now, with the fact that we have toothpaste that have fluoride in them, coupled with fluoride in the water, a lot of people are finding that they have overfluoridation of their teeth.
Definitely do your
Fluoride is
research.
sold to the United States from overseas in Asia as toxic waste.
It's important to note that it was a community decision and they had to push for it, and it's important to look into why they did that.
There's a couple things we should tease out. Number one is people have become zealously pro-nuclear and have absolutely forgotten the impact on water. So when we have the conversation that, I mean, they just, oh, it really uses that much water. It's like, yeah, I mean, a typical data center uses the same amount of water as Frederick, Maryland. You're taking that out and you're not returning it. And be honest with you, we're not sure of the chemicals that are being discharged from the data center. It's really kind of secret. People are so, and it's a good thing they're aware of climate change. I get it. We got to do something. But you know, do you have the right to auction off your children's future for your immediate need? Radiation time is different than human time. And so people have made a Faustian bargain with the devil. You can get electricity for the moment, but you have radioactive waste forever. Who empowered us to condemn future generations to babysit our waste product?
Bills are encompassing right now in the Senate. This isn't just about Detroit anymore, or Highland Park, Hamtramck, or anywhere in Southeast Michigan, Flint, Benton Harbor, or any of the former emergency manager cities either. We're really talking about the wide-scale need across Michigan, where water affordability, where bills are a problem for residents for a variety of reasons, right? Not always the same, but the infrastructure issues have really contributed to a lot of the ways in which communities' costs are going up. And when those water providers have to pay for all of that work, they've got to pass those costs on. So we recognize that. But at the same time, we work really hard to get the water providers and the legislature to understand that, you know, this isn't the fault of residents or households. And so we shouldn't
Systematic
place undue
issues.
burden on those residents. We've got to find a way to make sure that everyone can afford their water and recognize that it's just necessary for life, right? This isn't a political issue. It's just a basic human need issue.